Good morning, Facebook. Good morning, good morning. It is the 11th, August 11th, Wednesday, August 11th. I've been trying to fool around with my settings here on my computer because, for some reason, I talked about this a while ago, but for some reason, it has more of my background in, and then once I hit live, it zooms right in. So I'm not sure why it does that. I spent time last night trying to figure this out. Time this morning trying to figure it out. So I just don't know what's going on. And I don't know if it's a Facebook thing or if it's a Mac desktop computer thing. Not sure. Anyway, good morning, everybody. Waiting for my notification to go out here. It is Wednesday. We are closed today. We have a private party tonight. We had a private party yesterday. Closed yesterday with a private party. Doing a couple things in the office here. Jamie and I have to run some errands this afternoon, out and about. It's taking a long time for my notification to come out today. So I've got a couple of viewers on. If you're coming in, drop me a comment, hashtag live. If it's on the replay, hashtag replay. On Facebook, you can get the live and the replay. And on YouTube is always the replay. So we transform this over or upload it over to YouTube after we're done with it throughout the course of the day when one of my assistants has time to do that. So good morning, everybody tuning in. Big day here. We have a fire inspection today here. I did a little rant 2 weeks ago about this, and I want to give everybody an update because people are asking me still what's going on with the building inspector, fire inspector, etc. So we do have a code enforcer here, and we also have a fire inspector. So it's two kind of different people, two different positions, same department. It's the building department in the village of Ellenville. Let's see. Still, my notification has not gone out. All right, if you're tuning in, just drop a comment. Drop a comment, hashtag live. Always drop a comment where you're tuning in from, so that always helps. Just checking one more thing here. Waiting for a couple more people to get on. Let's see. So if you own a business or if you own a building, you are subject to inspections from safety code enforcers from your municipality, which is great because some people keep bad buildings. There goes my live notification. So you're subject to fire inspections, things like that, to make sure that your exit lights work, to make sure that a bunch of things are working in your building, to provide a safe building, safe environment, right, for your employees, for your guests, whatever kind of business you run. So it's understandable, and we have not gotten along with our inspection team here for quite some time. We've had some differences. First off, way back when we got into the restaurant building, we didn't own the building. We leased it from another village executive, from somebody high up in the village, and we never got inspections for the first 3 years. And all of a sudden I bought the building, and all of a sudden within 2 weeks I got a letter saying your annual inspection. I'm like, annual inspection? I mean, this was back in 2003, 4, 5, 6. I didn't realize there was an annual inspection because nobody ever showed up to do an inspection. The guy got a certificate of occupancy, and that was it. But once this village executive sold the building to me, and it was no longer an employee of the village's building, I got regular inspections. It was just odd how that played out in the very beginning. But over the years, we've had a lot of issues with the way what they tell us. And you have, as a business owner, as a building owner, have a right to ask for more information, ask to see the code, and just not take their word. If they say do this, do that, say, show me the code, show me what's going on. So where I'm at right now is our office space. In our office space, I do not own this space right next door, the Roman Time building, the backyard. I own that. Jamie and I own that. We have a mortgage on that. It's almost paid off. So, which is awesome. Then of course we'll have outrageous taxes for the rest of the time we own the building. But that's a whole other thing. So the space I'm in right now, I do not own, so it's subject to inspection, just like my building is. Except they go to the landlord of the building. They go. An interesting thing here in Ellenville too, and some municipalities do this is, if I don't pay the water here, that goes in the landlord's taxes, right? So, but the landlord pays the water in this building. There actually is not much water in this building. We don't run water in this building. But if I was a regular tenant in Ellenville, like if I owned another restaurant, and I decided not to pay the water bill if it came to my name, I said, I'm not going to pay the water bill. I'm not going to pay the water bill. I'm not going to pay the water bill. I'm not going to pay the water bill for 2 years. The village would actually take those, take that bill and roll it into the landlord's taxes and automatically take it right out of their escrow, and hit them up, which has happened, and which has happened several times, because the village once gets protected for their water bills. Because what happens is tenants come into a building, it goes in their name, then they leave and they never pay the water bill, and the village is like, well, we just got screwed for all this money. So the village resolution was to tack it onto the landlord's taxes. So if you're if you are a landlord here in Ellenville, beware of that. Beware of that, because I know landlords that have gotten screwed for literally thousands of dollars, because their tenant's just not paying the water bill. It goes to the tenant's name, and the tenant's just not paying it, and all of a sudden, landlord's like shocked. And that does happen, and that's not something that's uncommon. But back to the inspections. So about 3 weeks ago, they came down on my landlord and said, Marcus is in this back space. He and they did this a couple years ago to my previous landlord, who they did not like at all. Marcus really hasn't, filed an occupancy back there. You don't have a certificate of occupancy back there. But if we don't have a CO back here, they keep inspecting every year back here. So I don't know why they wouldn't walk into the building and say, here's your office, where's your CO? We don't have a CO, you need to get a CO. So, because the CO is kind of on me, because it's my space. So they gave my previous landlord a major problem with that, and wrote him tickets and took him to court and fined him and even arrested him. This is how ridiculous Ellenville is. They arrested my ex-landlord back here because I wasn't operating my business properly back here. It's office space and storage. So I go to the village and say to the inspector, to Ken, and say, what do I need to do to be legal back there? Oh, you don't need to do anything. You're fine. I'm like, but you're writing my landlord tickets, taking him to jail, arresting him, taking him to court because of something I'm not doing right. But when I come to tell you I want to fix it, you say I'm okay, I don't need to do anything. It's really, and this goes way beyond my fire pit that's in back, which is a whole other thing. ExposedEllenvilleBuildingInspector.com. You can go to that website to get the whole rundown. I have no problem standing up for my rights. I'm standing up to this criminal and psychopathic behavior. I have no problem standing up to these people. So my new landlord buys the building. Brand new landlord back here within the last 2 months. So he starts getting letters. Marcus is back there, not right or whatever, and this and that. And they came by and took a bunch of pictures of the alley here. And I had a lot of clutter in the alley. I will admit that. I had a lot of clutter. I had too much. All these new tables I bought for Ellenville Streets that they canceled, that nobody ever did anything with. All these new tables and chairs and dining tables, my oyster table, all this stuff was here in the alley. So I just had it stacked up because we've been super busy. I just haven't had time. It's all cleared off now. They came back and took pictures, hit my landlord up with Marcus is back there, it's not right, and this and that, and you have violations, and you have propane tanks here that are flammable, and they have to be removed immediately. Was what the report said to my landlord. So I was like, well, we need to actually call the village fire inspector and find out what we're allowed to keep here, because we are allowed to keep propane here. You're allowed to keep propane on your property. I've taken it one step further and put it into a locked cage. The same things that are like at that are at gas stations. You pull in and you see the propane tanks there, or a convenience store or a hardware store, and they're all locked up there in the cage. I have that. I have them in a cage. I just don't have them wandering around, my yard. So they say, get rid of all the propane, get rid of the cage. Now we have propane heaters, which a lot of restaurants have for outdoor dining. Each propane heater works, Each propane heater will burn through one canister a night. One of those big propane tanks, like the barbecue tanks, will burn through one a night. So that means if I'm open 5 days, then it's a cooler, it's spring or fall, I'd be going through about 15 a week, which means I'd have to go back and forth to the gas station, put it in my car, wherever I'm getting it filled up, at the hardware store, beverage store, and run back and forth all these propane tanks. And there would be literally 12 to 15 propane tanks scattered around my yard, shoved somewhere, not on a proper rack, not locked up. So I've chosen to go the route that's the most safest, in a cage, locked. The propane company comes in every 2 weeks. They refill them for me automatically. It's a swap program. It's the safest way to do it. So the village is like, well, you can't have any of those back there, to my landlord. So I said, well, let's call the fire department, the fire inspector, and see what's going on. So I called twice. I called 2 weeks in a row. No call back. Zero call back. Then I call the village manager. I said, listen, I'm not getting a response. Oh, he's there and this and that. Then I called the police chief and saying, listen, here's what's going on. Here's what's happening. What should I do? He goes, Marcus, I don't know the code, but let's get you a copy of the code so you know the code. And which the code is hard to read in the interpretation of the code. So he says, get the fire chief here. Have the fire chief walk here and see if he says it's safe or not. The fire chief is one who has to come here if when they call, if something is an emergency. Get the fire chief here and get his opinion. That's a great idea. So I call the fire chief. He comes over and looks at it, and he never gets back to me. So I call him back and I go, what was your opinion? He goes, I can't talk to you. I go, what do you mean you can't talk to me? He goes, I can't talk to you. The village does not want the fire chief talking to me because I have violations. Because you have violations that have to be taken care of. I go, well, I know that I have violations that have to be taken care of. That's why I'm asking you to help me with this so I know what I have to do. And he's like, I can't. Basically, the village shut down the fire chief from even talking to me about a safety issue. So I was like, this is insane. Like, how can you shut the fire chief down from coming to a business and telling, because he was like, Marcus, I was told you have violations, you have to take care of them. I can't tell you anything. I was like, this corruption in Ellenville. This corruption is insane. It's insane. Joel's saying, I know a landlord on the opposite side of Canal Street who was stuck with $6,000 because their low-life tenant didn't pay their water bill. That's true. That is so true. There's been a couple places across the street that have not paid their water bill. Crazy. Good morning, Jim. Jim's on. Jim's out on the West Coast. Jim, you're up early. Good morning, Ralph. Good morning, everybody else tuning in. Michael, Candace, Craig, Billy. So they're not even allowing the fire chief. They shut the fire chief from talking to me because I have violations that I want to fix. So I spoke to my landlord yesterday. I'm like, listen, I've called the fire inspector, Ken. I have to be careful when I say this. Ken Bovo. Sometimes I replace the V for a Z. I've called Ken Bovo, the fire inspector here, for. I've called him twice. I've emailed him. I've talked to the village manager about him not answering me. And I spoke to my landlord yesterday, and he tells my landlord that he's not talking to me. He tells my landlord, I'm not talking to Marcus, I'm only talking to you. So now they're coming today to inspect here, when it was very vague what needed to be done anyway, besides debris being cleaned up and propane tanks that are propane canisters that are extremely flammable have to be removed. And the big thing when I called the fire chief, I said, please come look at this with me. He goes, Marcus, is it in direct sunlight? No, it's under a tree. It's next to my other propane. He goes, like, oh, sure, I'll come take a look, tell you my opinion. So now they're coming to inspect today, when it all could have been solved by saying, Marcus, here's the code. You're allowed 10 tanks on that property because of the size of the property. You're allowed this. Here's the code. It could have all been solved within the last 2-3 weeks. He could have been coming here today to a solved problem, but he's not coming to a solved problem. He's coming here to cause more problems and probably to write tickets and do things like that. Ellenville and other places are like this too. These building inspectors, fire inspectors, I don't understand what their problems are. I'm here busting my butt to make a living, to make this village better, and I've been here since 2003 doing the right thing. And I'm trying to call you ahead of time so I can solve it by the time you get here, and you're not willing to do that. You're telling my landlord you're not talking to me. So this made me, like, extremely furious yesterday. Like, you're not even going to talk to me? Like, I'm a taxpayer. Like, I'm a taxpayer in the village of Ellenville. My taxes go to pay your salary, and you're not going to talk to me when I'm the one that has really the issues here. You don't have issues with my landlord. You have issues with things that because he's my landlord, you have to go to him. But they're really it's my stuff. It's my property that's out there. It's my things that are out there. You're not even willing to talk to me. I'm a taxpayer. You're not willing to talk to me. This made me furious. The fire department was shut down. Can't talk to me. Excuse me. I'm a taxpayer. I'm bringing people into there. I'm helping the betterment of this village, and you can't talk to me? And all the village manager says, well, my hands are tied, you know? You talk to the mayor, all of my hands are tied. Your hands are tied because you're wimps, and you don't want to step up and do the right thing and make this village run smoother and call these people out for being stupid. And this is getting me crazy right now. This is really getting me crazy. So now I have to deal with an inspector today. He's going to come here with problems. And the problems could have been solved. So, yeah, so they took a couple pictures and circled this and said, get this out of it, which I did. I totally did that. I cleaned up. In fact, next day I had most of the stuff cleaned up. Because I realized, yeah, there was a lot of stuff back there. But when they said get rid of everything, what do you mean everything? Like the table that my staff sits down on? Like everything that's in there? Because the alley's not a clutter right now, but there is storage there. And they used to always have garbage bins back there. When my previous landlord had it before we took this space, all the garbage bins are back in the way back here, which took up a lot of space. So there's always been stuff back here. I've always had a picnic table back here, always, because sometimes we'll go sit out there and do work. Open the door and go sit out there. My staff will sometimes sit down there and eat. So that table's been there for 6-7 years. They've never said a word about it. Now all of a sudden get rid of everything here? Like, come on, let's be realistic. Like, let's be a little more realistic. So, it is just crazy. Joel's saying brought life to Canal Street. When we opened on Canal Street here, folks, when we opened in Ellenville, there was no other formal sit-down restaurant. It was Chinese and pizza. Nothing wrong with those, but it was Chinese and pizza. We could have been the pizzeria capital of New York. There was like 3 pizzerias on this block alone. 3 pizzerias. So, but as far as formal service with a waitstaff coming to your table, a wine list, somebody, doing thoughtful cuisine, doing a real restaurant, we were the first ones in years to ever do anything. And then it took 4 or 5 years for other places to come. It took 5-6 years for Gabby's to follow suit and come in, and then other places started coming in. So the more the merrier, because it helps the synergy and bring everybody into the village. It would be no fun if you're going to drive all the way to Ellenville and say my only option to eat is Aroma Time. I was just hiking right here. No, you want to come down. You want to say, you know what? Ellenville's really cool. There's 5 great restaurants. I'm going to come back there and eat at other restaurants. I'm going to come back there and pop around from bar to bar and be able to, get an appetizer here, appetizer here. There's synergy in more and more. But when we first opened, there was none of that. Zero of that. It was us and the Shadowland, and that was it. It took 5 years. I mean, if this wasn't my chosen business, if this was just, if I was some random investor walking into a restaurant and putting money into, it would have been one of those things, just file bankruptcy. Just file bankruptcy. This isn't working. We busted our butts for years here, the first several years here, to make ends meet. And it still wasn't easy because you have a bad winter, you burn through all your cash reserves. I mean, it's crazy. And you take a loan to do this and a loan to do that, and by the time you catch up, it's insane. We're very blessed to be where we are now in the financial position we're in, and we've worked our butts off for it. And I help other restaurants. I help them. I do other things. I'm a go-getter, and like, I will be the first one to work the hardest here in this restaurant. And for them just to be able to not say, I'm not talking to Marcus. Unacceptable. And they're getting away with it here in the village. They're totally getting away with it. So I encourage a village manager to step up and do something. So, yeah, Gail's saying, how ridiculous. Why aren't they working with you instead of against you? Joel's saying get rid of the criminal element of drugs, out of the business. 100%, Joel. 100%. Very, very true. So Jennifer's saying small town, big ego, zero accountability. That's it. These people have big egos. The building department has the biggest egos ever. It's disgusting. This could have all been solved. He could have come here. He couldn't come here today. He could have talked to me. He could have spent 5 minutes on the phone with me. Ken Bovo could have spent 5 minutes on the phone with me and said, Marcus, here's the code. Here's this. Here's that. Here's what. Now they're telling me I'm not. They were saying in this I'm not allowed any propane, but I am allowed propane. I am allowed propane on my property, and the propane is butted up to my big propane tanks. So I'm allowed propane here. Just tell me how much, and I'll fix it. And I even told the fire chief. I told the fire chief, just let me know how much I'm allowed here. I'll fix it. I have 36 canisters in there right now. Half of them are empty. If I need to go down to 20 canisters, where I keep 10 full, 10 empty, or whatever, and then the Paraco comes here every week to restock, I'll do that. I'll cut it down, but let me know what I have to do. I could have taken care of this already. Could have totally taken care of this. So 1 o'clock today. 1 o'clock is the fire inspection today here in the building. So maybe we should do a Facebook Live. Maybe we should do a Facebook Live for the inspection. Or just at least record it. So Brian Shug's not allowed in my building. He's the code enforcer in the village. If he comes in, he has to be recorded and he has to be with the police chief, based upon the my fighting back, my speaking back, my protecting my rights and my right to petition my government, especially my local government. That's the conclusion that they came to, that he has to be recorded and announced, and the police chief needs to be with him. So, folks, you can win at this stuff. You can totally win at this stuff. On a local level. It's totally possible. You just have to speak up for your rights. Do not let these inspectors bully you. Do not let them bully you, because what they say is not, what they say a lot of times is not the final word. It's not the final word. But the problem is they're just used to, Gil says we should be there at 1 p.m. to see it. Good luck. So the problem is, most of us never speak up. We get frustrated and we just tell our close circle of friends, "Oh yeah," but we never go public with this because we're afraid of the backlash. And when they totally told me my fire pit was illegal and they were lying through their teeth and everything, I said, "What do I have to lose at this point? What do I have to lose if I speak up?" Right? And I noticed my very first post alarmed the village. My very first post alarmed the village. And they're like, "Please take that down. Please take that down." And I'm like, no, I'm not going to take it down. No, people should know what's going on here. And if it happens again, I'm going to post it again. And I even put ad money on one of the videos that I had made a few years ago. I put like $50 or $100 on Facebook, and I said, just blast this ad out there to all the local people and call these people out. So stand up. You don't have to quite go to the extent that I did, but stand up, speak back, and fight for your right here. And, you can report these inspectors to the state, because they ultimately work for the state. They ultimately have a boss in Albany, even though Albany's in shambles right now. They ultimately have a boss in Albany that you can reach out to and report them and stuff like that. But the problem is not many people do that. Same thing with judges. Judges, too. Judges, you can report them to their boss in Albany as well here in New York. So one of my only times in court, because of Ken Bovo, he's an architect here in town too, but he's the fire inspector. He's an architect, but he's a fire inspector, and he did drawings for me years ago, and I paid him to do drawings, and he sent another guy in, Ken Top, in, and said Ken Top needs to take some more measurements for me, and he sends Ken Top in. Ken Top comes in 2-3 times. And Ken Top then does some meetings for me to present the plans at the village, to the village board, to the zoning board, planning board, whatever it is. And I pay him for each meeting, because that was the deal. I had to pay him to go to the meetings. And then at the end of the thing, they asked me how I want to pay the balance, Ken Bovo and Ken Top. And I said, "What balance? I have a signed contract. I paid you everything." "Oh, no, you owe Ken Top money." "What do I owe Ken Top money for? He's your subcontractor." "Well, here's the bill. It's another $2,600. I said, "You bastards. This is the fire inspector who's coming today. This is the exact fire inspector who's coming today did this to me. This is 10, 12 years ago." I said, "I have a contract with you. I paid you everything in full." He goes, "But Ken Top." I said, "I don't even know who Ken Top is. I have no idea who this guy is. You sent him here. If you would have told me, well, we need to take more measurements and it cost you more, I would say, well, who do we use? Let me contact them, whatever. You sent a subcontractor. Now you want me to pay?" So this is the guy who's the fire inspector here in the village. It gets worse. So they take me to jail. They take me to court. They sue me. And you can see Ken Bovo sitting out there like, what's going on? What's going on? Because it got like he would like it was insane because the two are known to do this supposedly. So so the judge here, Parker in Ellenville, I'm telling it all today. So Parker, so I countersue for court case for court fees, because why should I pay an attorney $1,200-$1,500 and take out of my time to go to court? That's something so ridiculous. They got up there and they lied about shaking my hands in the parking lot and this and that. They produced a quote for the work being done, and the judge was like, this is a quote. Mr. Guiliano never even signed this. And what do you mean you shook his hand in the parking lot? The contract that's presented is for, let's say it's $3,000. The contract presented is $3,000. Now you want to bill him another $2,500 on top of the $3,000. You have no contract. You claim you have a handshake in the office, in the parking lot, and you have a quote that he never even signed. So Parker was like, basically, get out of my court. Like, I'm throwing that. I never even got a chance to talk. He goes, this is insane. Get out of my court. Stop wasting my time. And he looks at you, he goes, and you, Mr. Guiliano, you look like you can afford attorney fees, is what the judge says to me. Parker, looks like you can afford attorney fees. Excuse me? No. Do what's right or wrong, no matter what I look like, no matter how I'm dressed, no matter what you think I drive or whatever you think. It's either right or wrong. You threw the court case out because it was ridiculous. These two are lying to you, who's now our fire inspector. These two are lying to you, and you're going to tell me I look like I can afford to pay attorney fees? And there were several other attorneys in there, because there are other attorneys on there representing. All of them said to me afterwards, they go, I cannot believe he just said that to you. I cannot believe Matt Parker just said that to you. They were like, you need to file a complaint on him. You need to file a complaint on him with the state. That is so wrong and so messed up and so out of context. It's either right or wrong. It's not if you can afford it or not. That has nothing to do with you should have countersued. Ken Top and Bovo should have paid your attorney fees of $1,500 for bringing you to court for something so unnecessary and wasting your time. It's cut and dry. He threw it out. It was ridiculous. And now all of a sudden he's basing it on my looks? Talk about discrimination. Discrimination right here in the village. Discrimination because it's based on my looks. I look like I'm dressed properly. This is what's happening in the village of Ellenville. It's insane. It is totally insane. So the fire inspector who was in charge of suing me 12 years ago is coming here today to do my inspection, who told my landlord that he won't talk to me, and then they shut down the fire chief from even talking to me. So this is what's going on here in Ellenville. So it's insane. Insane. So, yeah, prepaid legal services, Legal Shield. I have that, Michael, but, they cover basic things. I have it for my business and I have it for personal. They cover very basic things. They always pay extra, so you might as well get a local attorney sometimes. So that's the story today, folks. 1 o'clock, fire inspection here in Ellenville at my building. Fire inspectors coming. Let's hope this is productive and positive. So that's it. All right, folks, I got to get going. Stir the pot a little bit the morning, so which I have no problem stirring the pot for the right thing. So, all right, folks, everybody have a great day. We're closed today. We're open tomorrow. Jazz is back tomorrow in the garden, weather permitting. It's always weather permitting. Jazz outside. So, and that's it. All right, folks, have a great day. Talk to you later.